Hey, Dave.
Hey, Brandon. How are you doing?
Good, good. Let me go back into this room.
Okay, sounds good.
So, how was your weekend, man?
I had a great weekend. How about you?
It was quiet. Um, I don't get those very often, but it was a good quiet.
Nice. Dude, quiet is underrated. I feel like it gives me a good thinking space, and I feel always really relaxed whenever I have a weekend where I don't do anything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, cool. Where are you at, man? This call has been a long overdue.
Yeah. My market is Jersey.
Okay. And then you live in Jersey as well?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sweet. What you got going on? Are you doing wholesaling in Jersey?
Yeah, just strictly wholesaling right now. Hopefully next year we plan on taking down a few properties ourselves. But this year had been the last 6 months because that's kind of how we've been went full time.
Yeah.
So the last 6 months. So just been focusing on wholesaling, building up that revenue, and hopefully next year we can take a few down. So
that'd be exciting, man. That's great.
Yeah, definitely.
It's great. It's great to get in the practice and get the systems in place when you're wholesaling to find great deals. Because let me tell you, man, that's how you find the best deals, my man. So you're
absolutely
great spot. Get some smoking deals on some rental properties when you guys are ready.
No, absolutely. And the market that we're targeting is a very highly rental population, rental area. So we're kind of dealing and focusing on tire landlords. So
okay, gotcha.
We're gonna hopefully clean up. So
that's awesome. So tell me about this deal that you had done.
So, well, the last one that we did?
Yes.
So refresh my memory. This is the one that I think I had posted for the hat, because we've done almost about 15, 16 deals already.
Dude, when you said that, you blew my mind.
Really? I thought there was some guys out there doing a lot more than that.
There is, but you weren't on my radar.
Hey, everything happens for a reason, right?
That's right, dude.
I was just busting the gentleman's chops about the hat. So it just so happened to be that you were watching and seeing it. So everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely. Well, maybe do you want to back up and talk about the first deal and then talk about how you guys built it up to 16? Because a lot of people here want to know that, I bet, that are on our YouTube channel.
No, absolutely. So we started maybe about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So it took me personally about 8 months to do our first deal.
Okay.
And we were just strictly driving for dollars. And it was just me, myself, starting out. Right. So we were just driving the area, my neighborhood. And actually, it's funny because I was out teaching my son. My son actually lives upstate New York. And he was with us for I think it was spring break.
Okay.
And it was spring break because the deal closed in May. So it was in April. So he was with us on our spring break. So he was kind of inquisitive as to what I was doing. So I kind of took him around and was driving for dollars. And how it happened was I stumbled across a property that was across from a local florist.
Okay.
That I had my eye on, that looked vacant and it looked like it was distressed. So I just went over to the florist, to the business, and talked to the owner, and said, "Hey, this is what I do. I'm an investor. I'm looking for property, and kind of wanted to get the scoop on the property across the street, because as we know, the neighbors normally have a lot of insight as to what's going on in the neighborhood."
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to him and he kind of said, "Yeah, no, you don't want that property. That guy, he lives in New York and he comes here on the weekends to fix the property up. So he's kind of slowly but surely fixing the property up so he can have a place to visit on the weekend from the city in New York City." So we were talking and he said, "But you know what? I have a couple of properties that you might be interested in." And he pointed me to the property that we ended up getting under contract. He gave me like the mile markers where the property would be. So it was literally maybe like a mile away from the florist.
Okay.
So my son and I, we pull up to the property, and the kind of description that he gave me was that you'll see a big tree in the driveway that had fallen down into the driveway. He said, "Don't you see that? That's the property that I'm talking about."
Okay.
So sure enough, my son and I, we drive around the corner about a mile, and we see the property. And we get out and we kind of survey the land and survey the property. It was obviously vacant. He knew it was vacant. So I kind of peered through the window and seen like the ceiling had caved in. So we knew that. I knew this was something good. Right?
Yeah.
It didn't. Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
This is the tree that killed somebody, right?
No, I didn't actually.
Oh,
I have no idea. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I have no idea. It was probably from one of the storms that had happened earlier that year.
Okay.
And
Well, thank
so
God.
that, yeah,
I
no,
want to
thank
put that
God.
bad juju out there.
No. So yeah, we reached out to the seller, and it was an estate. The children owned the property. The parents. This is the property they actually grew up in. The parents had passed away, and they had been actually trying to sell the property for about 2 years,
Okay.
but couldn't sell it. So that's how we found the property. I don't know if you want to ask more questions and get into that, but
No, I thought that was great. And then, well, how did you end up like finding the buyer and everything? Because this was your first one, right?
yeah. So we pretty much skip traced them. At that time, I was using Ben Verified.
Okay.
And it allowed us to do the onesie twosie skip traces without having to do the bulk. So we reached out to them. It was actually kind of hard to find them because we skip traced them by the owner's name, which was their mom and dad, who had obviously passed.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how Ben Verified, I'm not sure if you know how Ben Verified has the next of kin or the relatives. So we started. Yeah. So we started reverse engineering and kind of dialing and calling the people that were next of kin.
Okay.
And that's how we got in touch with the sisters. So got in touch with one of the sisters the same day, that Sunday afternoon. I left a message and she called me. I still remember it as clear as day. I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and it was about 2 hours later. She called me and she was like, "Hey, this is so-and-so, and you called and left me a message about my mom and dad's property. And just kind of wanted to give you a call and see what you were about." And just had conversation with her, and she gave me the backstory on how they grew up in the house, and mom and dad passed, and they had been trying to sell the property for 2 years. And she said that she was part of the decision-making people, right? There were two of them, two sisters. But she said that her sister kind of had the final say.
Okay.
So she had also, before I got off the phone with her, we had a good conversation. We talked for about 15, 20 minutes. And she said, "Let me pass my information on to my sister, and she'll reach back out to you." And just before hanging up with her, I said, "I don't know how long you guys have, how long it's been since you've been at the property, but you might want to go check it out. Because one, there's a big tree that fell over in the driveway. And I said, I hope you don't mind, but I peered through the front door, and it looked like the whole ceiling had caved in." And at that point, she just lost it.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, she lost it. She just was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm so sick and tired of this house." So I knew that I had hit a pain point. And I didn't bring that up to do that. I just brought that up to point out to them that, hey, they might want to get someone to go over and take a look at the property.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know how long it had been.
Mm-hmm.
So her sister called back, and a long story short, we ended up, and she was just as frustrated. Well, she was actually frustrated at the sister because the sister was the one that lived not too far from the property. And she was supposed to be checking on the property periodically. So she kind of was upset with the sister, and kind of calmed her down and said, "Hey, don't worry about it. This is why we're here, to kind of help solve that problem. So to get this issue off your hands, and we can take it from there."
That's right. You're solving a problem.
Absolutely. So
So how did you find the buyer? Who'd you sell it to?
So believe it or not, at that time, I didn't have an extensive buyers list. So
Yeah.
kind of what we did was posted it on some of the Facebook groups.
Okay.
I had a little buyers group, but not that big. So I posted it on a couple of the Facebook pages, and we had buyers. As soon as we posted it, it just went crazy. Had buyers all over the place jumping at it because it's a pretty desirable neighborhood in the county that I live in.
Mm-hmm.
So it just went bananas. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You make it seem so easy, Brandon.
I wish it was. Now remember, it was almost 8 months leading up to that before I got that first deal. So.
Yeah. Well, so how many times did you think you reached out to your list before you got this first deal? Were you calling them multiple times, or how did this work?
Yeah, so it kind of was a mix of things, right? Because again, we were just primarily driving for dollars. And at that time, we didn't even have your app, right? We had just pencil and paper and the old fashioned way. I would write down the address and then go back home and then skip trace via pull up the owner via our county records and kind of use Ben Verified one by one. So, I mean, I would say that we would reach out to at least 3 or 4 times a month. We would reach out to these sellers, trying to get them to bite or even show interest.
Yeah.
Yep. So we had a few of them, but nothing really panned out, and we really never got anything under contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, how did you turn this first deal? What was your spread on this first deal?
13,000.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. For the first one, I thought that was
really good. What? Yeah. How did you turn that first deal into 15 more deals?
So it was a little bit, it took a little time, right? Because prior to this, I still had a full-time job. I was in corporate America, and it was very demanding. So I was doing literally burning both ends of the candlestick. I was doing my job, my corporate America job full-time, as well as every waking, sleeping moment we were doing the business, the real estate business.
Yeah.
Even on the weekends, right? I would get up like 5 o'clock in the morning, just before the sun would crack. As soon as the sun cracked, we were out up until about 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, gotcha.
On Saturdays. And during the weekdays, out on my lunch break, we were out driving for dollars. On the way home, we would take the long way home and kind of scout for properties. But after that first deal, it was still kind of rough, right? Because I was still kind of learning the ropes and learning the games. And by that time, I had gotten your app though. So the first deal closed, and I think it was May 28th of 2018. Mm-hmm. And the next deal did not come until the first of the year, up to the top of the year. So in February. Okay. But during that time, I had kind of quit my job. 6 months prior to quitting my job, I quit my job on April 4th of this year. Okay. Six months prior to that, now after I had proven the concept that this actually worked. Right. I went to my boss because I had a team under me. So I had a lot of responsibility. So I didn't want to give my job kind of the standard 2 weeks or the month notice. I went to them and gave them a 6-month notice and said, hey, this is what I plan on doing. And they knew my aspirations, that this was not something that I wanted to do. I was kind of building something on the side to kind of exit. So I went to them and gave them 6 months notice. And I'm just giving you the brief, the condensed version. Right. No, I get it. You're good. Yeah. So after the 6 month notice, my last day was April 4th. And let me back up a little bit. I have to interject this piece of it because my faith it has a lot to do with the reason why I believe that it's working out the way it is, right? So the top of the year, usually my faith, we have what is called a fasting period, where we kind of recenter, refocus, and kind of regroup for the upcoming year. Okay. So during that time, it was about 21 days. I went on this kind of fast thing, and during that time, the area that I kept hearing to return to, my market, should you say, was in the inner city, was Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
And prior to that, I would never want to even be bothered with that area because I thought in my mind there was no deals there, right? But during this time of fasting and consecration, I just kept hearing once you return back to go into this market. So once I came back into the market towards the end of January, it was 21 days. I went to the Trenton market, and this is where we found the first deal at the top of that year, which was another 13K assignment.
Mm-hmm. Dang, another one.
Yeah, another one. So after that, it just snowballed. It just kept going. So, and I forgot the train of the question that you had asked me, though I was going down that road, but it just snowballed after that.
Dude, that's incredible. You've got to be really proud, I think, to have accomplished all that in a short amount of time.
No, absolutely.
But also, like, I want to point out, there was, 8 months or that first deal, and then 6 months again until you got it really going again. Yeah. So I don't want anybody here to get discouraged if they're trying for any less than that. So no more than, don't quit before 8 months.
No, absolutely. And that whole time, it was literally just putting the hand to the plow. I knew that it worked. It was just a matter of finding my niche and what worked for me. I believe that we hear a lot of standardizations, if you will, which are accurate, and I call them the foundational principles of wholesaling. I think if you have that, there's no one straight way or one person's way to get to the finish line or to the goal.
That's
you
right.
have to figure out your path and your process and be true to it and stick it out, and it will come to pass.
I completely agree. And anybody who's had a lot of success has focused on one thing for a longer period of time. So I want to say that because so many people quit after adding 20 properties.
Yeah, that's and that's another thing that I will say. You guys' numbers are like spot on. That 200 deal to add into DealMachine to get your first or to get a deal is pretty accurate. I'm looking at my numbers and my KPIs, and I track them like really closely. And you guys are like spot on with that 200 mark number.
Hey, well, thanks. Sometimes it does take more.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
We just heard from people like you that were giving us success stories, and most people were getting their deals after about 200 properties. So we wanted to kind of oversimplify it so that at least it gives people the expectation of how many they probably need to add. No,
absolutely.
Well, Brandon, I think that I owe you 16 hats if we're following the actual rules here. So I don't know.
Really, I didn't know that.
One hat or not, but
no, the one was good. The one was good, more than enough.
Yeah. What advice would you give to anybody who's listening that has done maybe one or two, but they want to actually do 16? So,
I think we hear it all the time, and it may be so cliche-ish, but it is so true to just stay consistent. Whatever you did to get that first deal, just rinse and repeat it, and obviously find ways to tweak it and to adjust so you're not spending a lot of time and effort in unnecessary places. But again, just stay consistent and do a deep dive into your business and understand what was it that got you that first and second deal.
Yeah.
And then just ride the wave.
Yeah. That's great. I think, a lot of times people say like, well, what got you there won't get you to the next level. I think that's this phrase. But, especially in those early stages, man, if you've done like 2, 3, 4, 5 deals, like just double down on what you already did that worked.
That's right. There's no need to recreate the wheel. No need to recreate it.
That's right. Yeah. So, Brandon, what can I do for you? I've already given you a hat. You've been very generous with your time to share this story, and you're successful out there. Is there anything I can do to help you now? Anything that he doesn't do, or anything I can do personally?
Well, we're waiting. I'm patiently waiting for that bulk load feature.
Okay, we're working on it, man. It's the next thing up on the list.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be great because kind of what we were doing in the beginning. Again, I started out driving. I then kind of hired at some point Uber and Lyft drivers to go out and drive for me, and kind of set them up in the beginning to kind of put the ball in their court to kind of look for the property, meaning giving them the criteria of the type of property that I was looking for. And for me, it didn't work that well because one, people didn't have the kind of trained eye that I had because I had built up that skill to understand, okay, that's a distressed property. Even though it may not be screaming distressed, I knew the telltale signs. So to kind of train that, and I kind of blame myself, right? You can't point at your guys and say it's their fault. You got to look at yourself and say, were they trained properly? Right. But with that said, it just became a lot, it became very cumbersome. So what I did was I started to kind of formulate my own list and just have my drivers go to the leads that I told them that I knew it fit my criteria. Yeah. So all they were doing was just going to the property, taking a picture before the Google Pic view came up. That feature was excellent too. So what they were doing was just driving a list that I gave them, and would just snap the picture so that we can get the photo out and the postcard out. But when the Google Street Pic view came, I did away with the drivers. Now I have VAs where all they're doing now is just entering in the leads that I give them or that I formulated and compiled together, and just kind of using the Street Pic view to do that. So the next best thing now is that bulk upload feature.
What are you guys going to bulk upload?
So we kind of do list stacking. And again, I think if you remember, I said my market is primarily a rental market. So it's old tire landlords. So we're kind of list stacking with date of purchase. So meaning if they purchased the property back in the 70s or the 80s, far long time ago, that's one of the criteria. Back taxes, liens, and I think there's another one that we do. We do a bunch of different list stacking. So once I compile that list, that's what we use to input into DealMachine, because it's not like a mass. I keep telling a lot of people, they're like, well, why do you use mail? Why do you use direct mail? That's so expensive. And I tell them, you guys have to remember that our list that we're using is a very targeted list. So it's not like we're sending out thousands of blanket email or blanket postcards. That's going to cost you a lot of money. Right. Where it's different now with just a push of a button, I can have my stuff out and into the seller's hands. So good stuff.
It is good stuff, man. And dude, I'd appreciate you so much for giving me 30 minutes of your time once again.
No.
And did you get your DealMachine hat yet?
Yes, that came Friday.
Oh, good.
We went on my part. He's kind of like my partner. We're kind of in the different markets, but we kind of came up in the ranks together, learning this wholesaling thing. And we went on an appointment that was kind of in his neck of the woods. I got a lead in his neck of the woods, so he knows that area better. So we kind of went on an appointment together on Saturday, and I wore the hat. So first time wearing a hat, so it was a good thing.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And
absolutely.
When you do your next 16 deals, let me know. We'll do a recap.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll got to do another. Usually I say when you do your next deal, but for you, I'm going to say do 16 more deals and then we'll talk. It'll probably be a month, right?
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope and pray.
Awesome. Thanks again, Brandon. I appreciate it.
No, David, thank you. My pleasure, sir.
Sure. I'll talk to you later.
All right. You have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.